Our access to news has become more available than ever before. For years, the public relied on print and radio to deliver current events and circulate news. With the rise of television and the popularity of the internet, the need for distributing and gathering news has been restored among users. The digital generation has adapted to sharing news and information through the internet medium by using social media platforms. This current state of delivering news has welcomed many news outlets to emerge from the web, ditching the traditional form of hard copy publications. Instead, these news organizations are solely based off of the web and are at the forefront of web journalism.
News exists to tell stories about things that matter to people, and where people are is on the internet. So if you're not going to reach an audience on the internet, then there aren't really many places where people are going to find you.
As right as that may seem, many publications are still learning to adapt to the internet culture. It's not just about having an online website anymore. News outlets need to be online actively interacting with their audience. What does this mean? It means they have to post pictures, hold live streams, use hashtags, and retweet. Media outlets need to interact with us online now more than ever and still deliver us news.
You're going to lose out on huge demographics by not having content online. And I do see a lot of outlets struggling trying to keep up with social media or trying to, hire people to do their social media to reach certain people, to reach certain groups, and it's just not working for them.
One of the many leading web-based sources to emerge in digital media is Vox. Vox caters to its audience by reporting news in a simpler format. It aims to remove the complexity of news topics and delivers it in a manner that users can view, share, and learn from with ease. The Card Stacks tool Vox offers on its website provides a user with key facts on topics that are being headlined like marijuana legalization or police brutality. Vox has been able to capture the attention of young adults who are seeking an alternative to the traditional platforms of news coverage.
Web-based media is pretty much in tune to the times of how people want to get everything in life, which means quickness. People want to get things fast. People want to get their news fast. They want to get their information fast. They want their music fast. They want everything fast.
Consider this. Vox was one of the first online-based news outlets to premiere on Snapchat's Discover tab, a designated section that delivers top stories from entertainment and news outlets to users without having them leave the app. Now, more news outlets share their own feeds on Snapchat's Discover tab, including the blog and news site Mashable. As a multi-platform media company, Mashable offers technology, world, water cooler, and social media news. This website appears to cover mostly what is trending now. If we look at their coverage of world news, you'll find their articles under designated areas of interest: what's new, what's rising, and what's hot. Mashable organizes and presents its content by the latest news, developing news, and trending news.
Online media has, in many respects, gotten rid of the gatekeepers. It's shorted that process. If a story needed to break, whether it was a story about social justice or socioeconomic inequity, those are the types of stories that are very difficult for large media outlets to talk about, because usually their editors, the people on their board, aren't that very bothered about structural racism or socioeconomic inequity. Those aren't things that really affect them in the same way that people in working class communities of color feel. So it in many ways has forced the media to focus on the issues that people of color and working class people care about, because those issues are going to trend whether they write about them or not.
When a story breaks and goes viral, Mashable has that trending story highlighted in its social media news section. That same story will reach Mashable users at the same rate.
Social media is kind of a fact checker for folks who, in many cases, are just so very distant because of their privilege from the actual communities that they're reporting on.
Social media has made it so that only this sort of lowest common denominator, things that the most people care about, are being shared, and that's sort of maybe a step away from an older model where it's sort of the editors decide what should be covered and it's their judgments. And there's definitely value in editorial judgment in that sense, but on the other hand, having these web metrics of sharing, how many times a thing gets shared, how many times a thing gets viewed, tells newsrooms look, people really don't care about this. we should frame it in a way so that people do care because it's important, or, you know what, maybe it really isn't very important and like we shouldn't bother. And that's sort of like a different way that the editor's judgments comes into play.
Insider is another online media outlet that shares news and content related to lifestyle and culture. This platform not only seeks to inform their audience, but also encourages them to live life as an adventure.
We just launched a Facebook page and we put stories there, we put videos there, and we launched as like a Facebook only thing, knowing that like a huge audience is on Facebook, and if we make stories that exist in the context of like a Facebook audience rather than like a general web, meaning like Facebook plus Google search plus like Twitter plus like all the other ways people get to stories audience, we'd come up with like a sort of different story format. And that's a really interesting experiment, is that these different platforms are modifying the way stories are told themselves and telling us who's interested in what.
These sites deliver news and information to their audience without trying to sell a narrative.
When it comes to social justice, social media has been a great tool for independent journalists to tell these stories and to push information out there that, you know, bigger outlets just don't have access to or don't care to cover.
They engage with users by interacting with them and sharing stories through social media.
Social media has allowed working class people of color to exercise their voice and tell their stories in a way that established media outlets never wanted them to. But at the same time, the 24-hour news cycles, it's just exacerbated by social media. Everything is instant.
They give their audience a voice by creating dialogue and recognizing the stories they want to know. While social media has changed the way we receive our news, web-based media has been leading by example when it comes to adapting to the growing culture.
It just provides a different function for a different way that people get stories.